Kelpie Flat Track Pod, brought to you by Kelpie, affordable race products designed to help you stay on track. Now onto the episode.
Welcome back to the Kelpie Flat Track Pod, episode 11. We're talking to Scott Wilkins in the North Island. New Zealand flat track racing is going off like a frog in a sock. So this one is recorded over an internet connection. There is a few glitches. I apologise about that. Not a lot I can do about it, unfortunately, but I hope you really enjoy it. It was great catching up with Scott, and my first time meeting him and talking over the internet, as close as in person as we're going to get for a wee while anyway. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it. You can check it out on YouTube on the Kelpie Flat Track channel there, or on Spotify as normal. So enjoy, guys. All right. Did you hear that too?
Yeah, warned me as well, yeah.
Yeah, so here we are. We've got Scott. It is Wilkins, isn't it?
It is, yep.
Yeah, correct. And Scott's in New Zealand and a bit of a flat track racer up in the North Island there. So, yeah, just tell us how it's all begun for you over there, Scott.
Okay, well, I've always known about flat track. Like flat track in New Zealand, we don't have a dirt track scene like Australia does, and with the way things are set up with Speedway and Motorcycle New Zealand, so I'll get into that in a bit. But we never really had that. There was a bit of a stock bike movement in the 80s and 90s where they raced on the Speedway tracks. That sort of died away. So the first, I remember watching it as a kid, we used to get ESPN used to show American flat tracks and show the miles and everything, Scotty Parker and Ricky Graham, those sort of guys, early 90s. And I sort of remember watching that, and it always interested me. And it's still on the bucket list to go to Springfield Mile, actually. So, and then first sort of came in New Zealand, a guy by the name of Sam Smith. I think it was around the time Rossi was started to promote flat track and even like that. He built a bike and ran an event called the Clay Classic. Originally, one was the guys from Engineered to Slide that helped build the bike, and it was a private event with about sort of 30 or 40 guys, and he'd built a little 1/8 mile on his old man's farm, and they got that, and that's the first I saw it, and it sort of piqued my interest because was racing super motard at the time, but most of super motard in New Zealand is basically road racing on super motard bikes, which doesn't really interest me. If I want to go road racing, I'll go race something fast. So, we started talking and trying to get it off the ground. So me and Sam, through some contacts with a guy named Paul Butler, who was involved in the Auckland Speedway Riders Club at Rosebank Road, they run solos and they run sidecars. Typical what Speedway is in Australia and that as well, but in New Zealand it's a little bit different. Solos and sidecars and Speedway sidecars don't come under Motorcycle New Zealand, they come under Speedway New Zealand, and they run in the same organisation as sprint cars and midgets and other.
Okay, yeah.
We have full contact stock cars in New Zealand, which are pretty amazing to watch, and they draw big crowds, but they all used to be part of what was the NZACU back in the day, and there was a pretty ugly split in the early 80s. And
is that when the bike tracks went into the centre of the car tracks?
Some of them did, yeah. After that, the car tracks went more clay. Late 80s, like Western Springs was a big bike track, but had a big redevelopment in the early 90s, and they went all clay. And the solo bikes can't really run on clay. And some of the stock car tracks, some of them went that way. They put bull rings on the inside, and most of those have died off now and that as well. So it's really sad. We were the best in the world for a long time.
I think that's when we sort of stopped going, because I used to go in Christchurch and watch the bikes and the whole speedway. Like, I never thought about it as all being one unit, but it must have been. And then all of a sudden they're pushing the bikes into the middle and you can't see the racing properly, and you're going, what the hell's going on here? You know, you're not getting sprayed with dirt, and all the fun.
Exactly.
All the fun was
I think there was a number of things. That was the cars were getting faster and faster in the tyres, and they wanted more clay tracks, and the cars outnumbered the bikes probably 10 to 1 even back then, the number of car classes. So it's sad because I grew up, my dad started solos and like that, and then moved into motocross and moved back into racing TQs and midgets, and I always remember watching sidecars and solos, and we used to go to Kiki, which is a track in the Waikato. And I remember as a kid, and sidecars always interested me. It was actually really cool. One of the first seasons we had flat track at Rosebank Road, one of the sidecar boys' passenger didn't turn up, so we got to swing on a sidecar for a day, which was sort of a bit of a childhood dream.
Yeah.
Saying that, I've never been so petrified in my life. Going out the pit gate, realising I don't have a throttle for the first time in my life.
Yeah, and you were saying you were sore from your first race back this weekend, just gone. And
I was pretty sore after that day because we raced flat track as well. So me and another one of the flat track boys, Hamish, we shared the ride for the day and ended up winning the feature with the other guy on too, because most of the top guys are out of town at a big meeting. So when you're riding down out of the pit gate with a guy you've met this morning whose swinger didn't turn up, you sort of have a life-defining moment walking out there. But it was really good fun and a lot of excitement. So from there, the club let us have a practice there, and we got 12, 13 guys to the practice, and then we had a few meetings, and the first couple of meetings didn't go too well. We only had 4 or 5 bikes. Yeah, okay. But now we're into our 4th year, and we won the biggest classes there. We had 14 bikes there yesterday. Yeah. I think we now actually, last year, Speedway New Zealand, there was more registered flat track races than solo races.
Right.
It's really going up. And Moore Park in Christchurch also contracts them. So Rosebeck Road and Moore Park contract them. So they tend to get sort of 8 to 12 bikes at Moore Park.
Yeah.
Just trying to organise to get down to the Canterbury Champs on the 10th of December. Just so those boys, because 3 of those boys have come up to the Clay Classic a few times, and 3 of them are coming up this year too, which is really cool.
Yeah, I think I might be talking to one of them tomorrow to get the sort of South Island perspective of things.
Who's that?
Is it Wayne Drake or Drakey Drake?
Yeah, Drake. He's a character and he's a good peddler. He's so around about the same time we got Auckland going. Drakey and Tony Cutler and everything like that got the bug down in Moore Park, and Mike Provost, who's run the club at Moore Park for a long, long time, he got behind it and realised that we are good for the club and everything like that. It gives the guys too, because they have a lot of problems where they lose their juniors away from a solo. To go from a 250 junior solo to a 200cc junior solo to a 500cc senior solo is a massive step.
Yeah. And
you've sort of got to be the right size and the right build to ride one of those, but the flat track bike is a little bit more forgiving and will give guys a chance to stay in the sport without having to commit to riding a 500cc lay down solo, which is...
Yeah, so what happens to those guys? Like, do they go into a different discipline or they just disappear or...
Yeah, well, a couple of the top road racers in New Zealand now. The guy that won the 600 title last time they ran it, Dale Finch, he was ex-under-21 New Zealand solo champ. So he's gone road racing. Cormac Buchanan, who's doing Red Bull Rookies in that this year. Yeah. He's out of Invercargill and he started as a speedway. Yeah. So, they tend to go away. So I think the speedway clubs are keen to keep these guys. So it just gives another outlet. And the great thing about this too, it's easy to get into. You can have a bike with a bit of changes, you can go trail riding back in winter and that as well.
Yeah, and you guys are pretty flexible. I noticed on the rules, like you can pretty much start with a trials tyre and a 21-inch front.
Yeah, exactly.
And just get into it. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So basically, like at the Clay Classic, when we've got enough guys, we separate that class out. We have what we call a stock bike class, which all you need to do is take off your front brake and put a flat track legal tyre on. So trials tyre, like run in Australia, Speedway, an old solo tyre will do, or a flat track tyre if you get that. So a lot of guys just bolt a tyre and come have a play. And basically we all started like that. And it's a great way to get people in.
Yeah, it is a nice, cheap, easy way to do it.
Also a tether switch, so because we haven't really got crowd that close. So
yeah.
And a modern motocross bike doesn't have the same issues as a solo bike with a massive flywheel and methanol.
Yeah. And unless it's poorly maintained and the throttle sticks on.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, sweet. So yeah, that sort of answered a few of my questions. Yeah. I have noticed though that everyone pretty much seems to be on the American style setup now, 19-inch.
We always wanted to go to the American style setup. That's the way the FIM's gone with the World Championship. There's now a proper World Championship for solo. Obviously, it's the way Valentino Rossi pushed it, even like that. Australia sits out a little out in the island with what they did, but they produced a hell of a lot of good road races with that system.
Yeah.
And to watch the likes of that. I mean, I've actually been to Taree before. I met a guy named Caleb Stadler while I was travelling on a Contiki through Europe.
Yeah.
The last guy to win the 250 Prodi title when they were 2-strokes on an Aprilia. And we got quite good friends on this trip and caught up in London. And then I went and stayed in the Gold Coast for a couple of months, just bummed around and borrowed a friend's car and went down to the Taree night race. And it was Troy Bayliss turned up. In 20 years. And that became the Troy Bayliss Classic the next year. So he turned up with a bike and just to race his old dirt track routes. And then the Troy Bartis Classic became a really cool thing for a few years while they ran that. So that was my introduction to Aussie dirt track racing. And it was a really cool day. It was a really eye-opener, and that was another thing that sort of added to it. And Caleb actually knew Sam as well, because Sam had raced 600s against him in Australia.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so we'll carry on a bit with the story. So for those that don't know, Sam Smith actually committed suicide in 2019, I think it was, as a sort of, he'd had a lot of head injuries right the way through childhood and racing bikes and then into racing cars as well. So it rocked us all. He was a good mate to a lot of us, and it rocked us really hard. And we got right into the slack track, and I actually I look at it every now and then. I had an Instagram message from the morning before, and we were talking about how cool one of the tracks looked and like that. And we just started about running the clay. He'd run one himself, and we'd started talking about running a clay classic again to get a lot more guys in, because when we go to Speedway, it's a lot more regimented with having the green sheet bikes, like tech bikes, and have probably learned that, where when you run something on the farm, we can run it under motorcycle in New Zealand and have it a bit more relaxed. So after he passed, a group of his mates, me, Blake Gillard, Luke Ramsey, Craig Brown, a lot of us, we got together and we got the permission of his wife and his mum and dad to run this meeting at his dad's farm. So we ran that in 2019. 2019 was pretty loose. It was basically all day practice with a race at the end. We had about 30 bikes, and we put it into a couple of heats. Anyone that wanted to race, and the top 6 went to the final. We had a final, and that was really good. Luke Ramsey won the first one. Blake Gillard was second. I was third. So to have 3 of Sam's mates on the podium that first year was actually really cool.
Cool.
Yeah. Then we ran it again in 2020. Bigger again, still into classes. We had what we call DTX flat track, which is USA rules. So you've got to run 19-inch front and rear. Then we run stock bikes as well, which was just put a tire on, run, and it has to be a standard front wheel. And we run what we call Thunderbike, which is based on hooligan rules, really, but a little bit dragged out so we can get everybody in.
Yeah.
So basically the rules are any air-cooled single and any multi. So any twin, if you want to turn up with a 4-cylinder and go nuts, good on you.
Yeah.
So basically, it's designed for a class with road bikes and stuff that's not a modern motocross enduro bike.
Yeah.
And like we've got one of the guys that races at Rosebank Road with an SR 500 or TC 500, and it's not really that competitive against a modern motocross bike now. But you put them in that, and I know at the Clay Classic, which is on the 5th of November at Waihi Beach, I'll talk to why we moved soon. I know we've got a couple of BSAs, a Triumph, guy with a Harley, another guy with a Harley who can get it running.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a really cool class, which is more of a clubman's type class, run what you brung. Yeah. And then we also run a Mad Dog class, which is based on US Mad Dogs, which, again, we've dragged out the rules a bit to try and get as many bikes in as can. So it's maximum 230cc, 2-valve 4-stroke. Vehicle.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
cool. Your TTR 230s.
Yeah.
A couple of guys have built those bikes, and if you want to, like, a couple of guys have built XR 200s, and
on our club day we have they call it a bucket, but it's up to 200 air cooled, and it can't be anything too expensive, just a fun class.
I work the rules around our bucket racing road race rules as well, which is they allow 150cc forced water cooled, so we're allowed that too. But you're not allowed a competition based motor, so you can't turn up with a CRF 150R and smoke everybody. Like all motorsports, you give someone an inch and they'll take a mile.
Yeah, but in reality, a
lot of people do some dumb shit and spend a lot of money for a $5 trophy. So
yeah, but in reality, what's the fun of being miles ahead of anyone? I've sort of had the privilege and not the privilege of being way in front of it. I turned up to meeting in Mildura, and I went in the vets because I'm a bit older, and the other guys just weren't quite as competitive, and it's no fun. I can do that out in my backyard practicing.
I agree, but when Blake passed me the last lap the other day, I would have liked to be a bit further ahead. But I know. I agree. I'm the same. I enjoy the battle more than I enjoy the trophy at the end. I enjoy the beers afterwards with a good group of mates afterwards too. So So this year 2020 we ran at Smith's Farm again. 21 we were cancelled with COVID. Auckland went into lockdown. I don't live in Auckland. I live in Tauranga, so I couldn't even get up there. So we called it off. And then really in 2020 we'd outgrown the farm. The track was a bit small. The paddock was a bit small. We had to bring all the infrastructure on the toilets and like that.
Yeah.
Then last year, the Waihi Beach Dirt Track, which is what they call a black track over here, so it's not affiliated to Speedway New Zealand or anything like that. So they invited us down to run. They run a bit of everything. They run the opposite way normally.
Right.
Cars run left. So, so I run right-hand drive. So they run the opposite way to what traditional speedway runs. So they brought us down, and the track is amazing. It is the best view of any speedway.
Yeah, I've seen it on Facebook. It's awesome.
Yeah. So we're running there. The club has given us an amazing deal. Basically, we're spending more money to bring in all the equipment to run it. Sandsmith's farm. They have a licensed bar at the track. It's a seaside beach town that the local hotels putting a band on and everything for us because a few people in town. So
awesome.
It's going hopefully became our new home. So a big thanks to Waihi Beach Dirt Track who's believed in us and like that. And
and what's the date of that one? That's in November.
Yeah, that's the 5th of November, so 2 weeks time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So that's cool. And so there we run. So that one we run. So we're running DTX. It looks like we may need 3 heats. We're going to have somewhere between 24 and 28 bikes.
Cool.
So that'll be really cool. And we run. So we're going to run 3 practices because it's still a lot of time. So you get 3 lots of practices and minimum 3 races. So we run a grid draw reverse in each heat.
Yeah.
Top through to an A main. So if we run, it looks like we'll probably run 2 heats, but we'll run top 4 from each set of heats will go to the A main. The rest go into twin B mains. And the top 2 out of each of those 2 B mains will go into the 12-rider feature.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and then at the end of the day, we run the Sam Smith Memorial. So after you heat, your top 24, and we're actually running classic sidecars there as well because they run at Waihi Beach as well. And Sam Smith's father was a sidecar racer through the 80s, so a lot of those are his mates, and it sort of just fits in with us too, gives us a few more riders and helps the Waihi Beach, because the classic sidecars run there.
Yeah, nice.
So also run the Sam Smith Memorial feature. So this has been going since the second one. So Luke won it the first year, Blake won it the second year. And this year we're doing something a little bit different. Before we've done a super pole and on a tight track, it was a bit hard. So this year we're running it, what we call it, so the top 24 bikes out of your heats, whatever class you are. So if you're on a stock bike, if you're on a Mad Dog, if you're on a top 24 bikes, will go into 2 12-rider semis. The top 6 each of those semis will win their way into the main. But the main's going to be what we call a competitor invert. So Blake starts on grid 12 at the back, and he chooses who starts next to him.
Okay.
Who starts next to him. So basically, So instead of being a handicap by a handicapper, the competitors choose themselves. So before that race, we'll have a discussion that Blake will get to choose who starts next to him, and he may choose me, or may choose Toby, or may choose Drakey, or anything like that. Or he'll have a look at times. And that's a 15-lap race, so the fastest will need to come from the back, and it's going to be $500 to win it.
Yeah, so awesome.
Everyone that makes that main will get their entry fee back. So we've had Carver Court, Bernie Smith, Sam's dad, and Luke Ramsey put up some cash for that event. So it's going to be that trophy means a lot, especially to a lot of Sam's mates. So
Yeah, fantastic. And how many laps are all the other heats and races?
So your basic heats are 6 laps.
Yep.
Your mains are 8 laps, and your finals are 10 laps.
Yeah, cool.
So the other classes like your Mad Dog and your Thunderbolt. So the stock bike we've put into unders and overs. So it's old school rules: 0 to 202 stroke, 201 and over, 0 to 254 stroke, 251 and over. So they've been split because we had so many last time. We split those into under and over. Looking at my pre-entries, I maybe shouldn't have, but most of those are motocross riders and are fucking hopeless at putting stuff in. So I think next year I'm going to put in my rules. If you're not entered on time, you're going to start off the back in both your heats. So I can do grid draws in like that. So we hope to have about 60 or 70 bikes.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Well, I think we're going to have about 8 to 10 classic sidecars. So classic sidecars basically the Speedway New Zealand drew up the rules, and basically it's a lot of your twins, even like that, from going back to your Nortons and your BSAs and stuff like that, and up to your 2-valve Japanese 4s, like your GS1000s, Z1000Js, stuff like that. They've basically drawn the cut. Speedway New Zealand drew the cut off at GSXR 1100s and ZZR 1200s.
Yeah, right. So
that 4-cylinder, 4-stroke out of it, just for horsepower wise and everything like that, and to keep it somewhere near classic.
So it's not just flat track that you've raced, though. You've had a pretty colourful history in motorbikes.
Yeah. So for the guys who don't know me, I've been riding bikes since I was 3 years old. My father was always in the motorcycle industry. Originally owned a Suzuki Kawasaki shop in Wakatani, and then was a Kawasaki distributor for 30 years. So I was known as, so I've been around bikes my whole life. I mainly raced motocross growing up. From when I was 8 years old, I wasn't a particularly good junior, anything like that. I became not a bad senior. On a good day, I could be top 10 in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And got that. I got pretty badly injured when I was 22, racing Supercross. Spent 8 weeks in the hospital. I was meant to actually go work for my dad after that, but he went and found someone else, and I ended up going to work for Mike Ramsey. And the deal was I was going to work for him for 6 months and then bugger off overseas to one of my mates' weddings. He rang me 2 weeks in and told me don't come to the weddings off, then turned up 2 weeks later with his wife, and the kid was due in about 8 months. So, and then I couldn't actually get medical insurance to travel. I had quite bad internal injuries, and I couldn't get any medical insurance to travel. So I ended up buying the shop. So I ended up buying Mr. Motorcycles. And I was in there for 10 years with my brother-in-law, who still owns it, Craig Brown. So, and we actually sponsored Sam early on his road racing. So that's how we got to know Sam and his family. But for me, like I like racing anything. I've raced cars a bit. I especially like super motard. I really like super motard when there's a dirt section. Unfortunately, there's only one track in the country with a dirt section in New Zealand. That's Greymouth Street Race. I didn't go this weekend for the first time in about 5 years. I've sold all my motard gear. I don't really enjoy the road racing on a motorbike. It's hard on the bikes. And I enjoy the dirt section sliding around. That's where I really love the flat track, because you're sliding the bike.
Yeah.
And I really, really love that. So, yes. And the other thing I did, my dad, when not long before he sold Kawasaki, he bought an H2R. So he wanted, Kawasaki built the H2R, the race one, to be fastest one in the world. And he wanted to go set the land speed record, and I convinced him to let me do it. So we set the New Zealand land speed record this year for bikes, sorry.
Yeah, that was 354 Ks or something, wasn't it?
358 kilometre average, one-way pass was 365. So and we don't have salt flats here, so we do it between a pine forest and a 6-wire fence on a backcountry road. So there's a road down in Canterbury that's pretty good too. So it took 5 years to get there. We had a big disappointment a couple of years ago, and then we had 1 year cancelled with COVID, where the bike just kept cutting out, just jumping into limp mode. It was over boosting, and unfortunately, when you don't get to ride it fast much. It's too loud to even ride on racetracks in New Zealand. So we got that this year, and and I'm now, my wife has banned me from ever riding it fast again. So she hated it, but I actually started it before I met her. So she had to put up with that for a while. But she told, the Land Speed Record Association, which my dad helped run and everything like that, we set the overall record for that, beat the car record, which was held by 1,800 horsepower GDR Skyline, or GDR Nissan, sorry, they're not Skyline anymore. My thinking the other day was, if I beat that record 2-way, it's going in the trailer. And they were trying to put me back on, and it's like, nah, it's getting hotter, it's going to get slower. And quite frankly, I shit myself on that thing every time. It took me half a day to get my head around it, because I don't ride bikes fast. Not even like I ride a super bike that much. So,
And are you on a KX 450 on the dirt track?
So my original one was my Supermoto bike, which was a 2015 KX 450, which was full Supermoto spec. So I had harder springs in the front and like that. And I converted it. I had 2 sets of wheels, but I didn't really change the suspension. I only changed clickers. So this one, I built a 2020 KX 450, and we've gone full flat track spec. So we got some specs out of America, and our guy here, Norm Cobb from Suspension Tech, did his own sort of reference on that. He's got shock dynos and like that, and he does Blake suspension. He does a lot of the guys' suspension. So the problem is we don't know what we don't know. So we're all still learning. So this bike's a whole lot softer in the front, and it's just really giving me a lot more confidence in the front. Where before I had harder springs in and lowered, now I have it lowered with basically standard motocross springs in it, and it gives you a whole lot more feel in the front.
I was going to say, actually, my first dirt track bike, or I still got it downstairs, is an 03 450, YZ 450. I did nothing to that suspension. And it was pretty good. It lasted me 7 years.
You don't know. But the best you've ridden is the best you know.
Yeah.
So it's always sometimes not good to ride a really good bike because if you know someone else is that much better, like
yeah, or if you can get good on a shit heap, just imagine when you get on a good one.
Exactly. So now we've got in there, and I bought in a steel shoe, and just learning to trust the steel shoes been a big thing. Especially on the so we do a series on some of the car tracks as well, which are clay, and you can't run the steel shoe there because the tracks are a little bit rough on the cars and still sticky with the clay, and they basically destroy your knee every time the steel shoe hits the ground. So this bike, I'll put a rubber foot peg on the left hand side for the steel shoe and just develop it more. Then we're getting faster, and it's been interesting. The two strokes have been really good here. They seem to be able to carry the mid corner speed a lot better than the four strokes. Obviously, just without the reciprocating race. So brakes on the two stroke, and it's the best thing about it. We've got a great bunch of guys to come around. We've got guys that are ex-junior motocross champs. We've got current New Zealand Superbike champ, or was current Superbike last year. Toby Summers was top New Zealand Supermoto rider for a long time and won the Suzuki Series on a 600 a couple of times. We've got two guys that are multi-time New Zealand Enduro champions. So it's been, most guys tend to be in their 30s, and they're probably looking to get away from the real high impact and really fitness of motocross and enduro, but still have that close racing, and it's really given us that. So
it does. It's definitely something special about flat track, or even the Australian style with the 2118, which is really, you guys, in a way, I think you had an advantage to go straight to 19s, as you didn't have a established discipline already, and we're sort of fighting that a bit over here. A lot of people don't want to go from that, the reasons are unlimited, it seems. But
I agree with you. We're lucky. It was hard because we had nothing to start from, but in some ways that made it easier because we could, and with a little bit of flexibility we ran all in at the start because there was only 5 of us.
Yeah.
And now the point is we've got the rules changed a little bit, so we're allowed on certain tracks up to 15 riders. So where original speedway rules, which are the new Motorcycle New Zealand rules from the 80s, were 10 riders tops.
Yeah. Right.
So now we're up to 12 and if the track's wide enough, we can go to 15 or 15 on a handicap. So because that's one thing we've always done at Rosebank Road is we run a handicap feature, and we're trying to get more guys win features. Like if the same guy wins a feature every week, everyone gets pissed off. Like we had a mate of mine who had been super motivated rider and a really good junior, Ben Gates Brown. It was his first speedway meet. He'd done a couple of practices and he had a pretty good pick off the white, and he started about halfway through and he won the feature. He got the line going good, and we couldn't catch it.
Yeah, right.
Couldn't get through the pack, and it's really good to get. And the speedway clubs probably promote winning more than, like, we go to motocross and enduro and stuff like that, and it's just a fun. It's like they don't have a prize given afterwards, even like that. Like the speedway tracks still run a show where you carry the flag and you do everything like that. So it's a pretty cool experience. And as Ben put up a post today, he'd never done that, and he'd been racing dirt bikes since he was 8 years old. Never carried a checkered flag.
Yeah, crazy, isn't it? Yeah. It is a great feel. I did a couple of the New South Wales titles and the Akubra Classic just recently, and they do a parade lap in the national anthem before the racing starts on the second day. Yeah, I'd never done that, and it's fantastic being part of that environment.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I've done the street races in New Zealand will sometimes do that, and I've done it in Supercross as well, and they have it at Speedway as well. And it's really cool, just be able to see a crowd and
Yeah, and you guys are getting pretty good spectator numbers.
Rosebank Road probably gets 300 to 400. So Speedway New Zealand, you're not allowed to charge entry fees.
Right.
So Rosebank Road, they charge a track prep fee of $10. So it's $10 a weekend to race. So but the spectators pull the punting, and only the rider gets in for free. So any support crew you got to pay an entry fee for. So it's really cool like that. And then when we go to Western Springs and Gisborne and Waikato Park, we're running our tri series, which is the car tracks. There's no entry fees here either. So again, those guys, like, we'll run at Waikato Park and we're running on Demolition Derby night.
Yeah,
they're probably going to have 5,000 to 8,000 people there.
Yeah, right.
Western Springs, we're running on the 50 lap of sprint car night. They may have 12,000 there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so, but they're not coming for us. They're coming for the cars.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool to race in front of that. Like Western Springs to me is pretty hallowed turf. It's been racing there since 1929, and few of the midget faithful aren't happy with the bikes being there, and I keep reminding them, was like, you've got to say 1935 then, because that's when cars started racing there. So, yeah, it's. I'm not saying we're well received by a lot of the faithful, but I know when we're down there, a lot of people come and ask questions and like seeing us. And a lot of people say, I used to ride motocross. I love seeing bikes. You know, a lot of people like the variety, and the promoters like us because we don't take up much room in the pits. We get on and off the track really fast compared to a 15 car field.
Yeah.
As long as we stop splashing ourselves, where we're fine. So yeah. So yeah, as I said, racing at Western Springs, like I rate Western Springs as one of the great racetracks of the world. Like they've had the midgets racing there is unbelievable, and you've had guys like Jeff Gordon and Kyle Larson come down to race midgets there, and it's some of the best midget car racing in the world. And I go there to watch, and I always wanted to race a midget there, and I never got really the funding or the work to get there. But to race a bike there is pretty cool.
Yeah, that almost got closed down, didn't it?
Or
is that always the rumour?
I get shut down, and the council and that too. So, yeah, so it's been pretty close a couple of times. I think they've got a contract to 2025 at the moment. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes from there. So,
yeah, and I think from memory, watching, because I watch you guys through Facebook, it's the only way I can do it. And I saw a picture. I think it might have been the first time you guys were there, and it was like lumps of clay. Was that Western Springs?
Dude, I've been to the Housel motocross track, and it was with less ruts than that. But yeah, it was. We were part next to Jonathan Allard, who's a California-based, ex-California-based Pitco, came out here racing, married a Kiwi girl, lives out here now. And I actually got talking to him about it, and he came and asked about the bikes. He told us about a guy who used to race in California that came from flat track bikes, who reckons when the tracks were slick, no one could touch them because he could just find traction when none of us could. Yeah. And like most of the drivers have been really into the bikes. But yeah, that night was really bad, and Springs have been really hit and miss on tracks for the cars and that for a long time, and it was one of the worst nights we had. And one corner was just basically survived. The other one wasn't too bad. But yeah, you probably had a rut that even on a motocross track could give you issues. So yeah.
I remember seeing it and going, it's no, excuse the French, no fucking way the guys over here would ride that. They'd all be saying, no way.
They had sidecars there that night, and they did one practice and packed up. So, yeah.
But that's how you've grown it too, isn't it? Being understanding and working with the clubs and not being, not being.
We'll take what we can get.
Yeah.
And we'll get it. We'll do our best. And I've been involved in a lot of clubs. I was president of the Pitco Motorcycle Club for 8 years and on the committee for 16 years in motocross. I'm a life member of that club. I know how much volunteer hours goes into running motorcycle events, and Speedway's the same. And I always make a point to go say thank you to a couple of people every time. Like this weekend, it was Ken Fox who does a lot of photos and that you see he does. I went and said thank you to him because there's a lot of free promotion for nothing.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys will do it because they're so used to dealing with shit all day, every day, and angry parents or angry riders or someone that's been sinned against. And so, yeah, just to go up and say thank you means a lot to guys like the stewards and everything at Speedway New Zealand meetings are all volunteers. Most of them don't even probably get travel. They probably don't even get travel money to turn up. And and a lot of them give up every weekend of summer to do it. So those are the people who really love the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's cool that they do that. And so they get those crowds, and so do the cars and that get paid? Do they, the drivers, or?
Well, as I was explaining to someone on the weekend, I think it's $1,000 to win a midget or sprint car main at Western Springs on a Saturday night.
Yeah, okay.
You probably need to spend $1,500 on tyres alone. So, no, there's no professional drivers in New Zealand. So, yeah, they may get some travel money and like that, but you're talking maybe $100 to show up.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had a bit of a debate about prize money and that over here lately, and some people say, you shouldn't have prize money at a title and that. But like you say, the cost for the riders to get there, and, only a couple are going to be rewarded, obviously, if you place. But my opinion is that you should get some monetary refund if you can. But, not all clubs are in that position. But
I mean, another thing, I've been on the board of Motorcycle New Zealand, so I've been in some high places. Now, I understand the argument. When you're funding it out of entry fees, it's a little bit different to someone like, and that's what we've done with the Clay Classic. We pay our bills, and if some people want to donate some other people want to donate to the prize money fund, that's why we do it that way. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
And the other thing with the Clay Classic, we do it as a fundraiser for suicide and mental health charity. So anyone that comes in the gate, it's a gold coin donation. We hope to get 500-600 people there, and we donate all that money to the this year it's going to be a Mike King's charity, I Am Hope, because the other one we've done has sort of closed up. So the one we're doing, which is Pukakari, which was to do with Sam's family, has closed up. So yeah, we're doing it with I Am Hope. And yeah, the prize money thing's hard because I don't think it gets you big competitor numbers.
Yeah, no, you're probably right.
Yeah, because most guys realise they're not going to win it. And the guys that are going to win it were probably turning up anyway. So I understand both sides of the argument. The best show I have is when it's funded out of entry fees. I'd rather see it's cheaper entry fee and more people, but I understand the other argument as well, and I don't proclaim just because I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah, okay, cool. So the tracks you've got Rosebank. Oh, sorry, is it Rosebank?
Yeah, Rosebank Road in Auckland, to the Auckland Speedway Riders Association.
And now you've got the other one up by the ocean.
Yeah. So Waihi Beach, we run there a little bit. Yeah.
And do you have any others in the north?
Not really. There was a track built at Taupo at the motor racing circuit, but it never really had a club to run it. So we fell over there. Now that's changed ownership. Tony Quinn's bought it, and I'm not too sure how keen he is to use that. So no one's really tried. But the hard thing was we had no organised. We had probably 10 guys wanted to race here, but you didn't have anyone to organise it. So we had a couple of practice days there. We have run at the Auckland Vintage Speedway at Merrimere, and Whangarei has actually started running bikes as well, which is a black track up at Whangarei.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And you guys don't have, you don't really have any kidney bean shaped tracks like here, do you? Or?
I'd love to run a TT in that as well. So
yeah. What about trotting tracks? You can run.
Well, yeah, but I see the one in Pukakari is just a sale. It'd be quite good to run here once. Yeah. Ivan Major, I don't know if you remember that, but Ivan Major in the 80s did a big one at Alexandra Park, right in the city of Auckland.
Okay.
It'd be cool to get on those, but resource consent and noise issues, let alone the fact that the horse people hate us with a passion.
Yeah, it doesn't help.
A couple of people have looked into it, but no one's really got that far.
Yeah, the first year I went to the Burt Munro Classic, I was actually coming to race on the trotting track.
Yeah.
And that was the year it got cancelled and never ran again.
14?
Yeah, 13 or 14.
Yeah, I first did it. So, yeah, it's the same because I was going to do that as well, but yeah.
Yeah, so I ended up doing 3 years in a row. The plan was to come once. So it's a pretty good event. And have you any inside word or anything that the flat track class could join the Speedway Spectacular at a Burt Munro?
We're a long way off the Speedway Spectacular, but they were going to run us last year and then COVID shut us down. So Ariti are looking at it, at running out of class there, whether it gets into the Burt Munro for a few years. I don't know. It's solo numbers are still okay in the South Island, where they've completely died off in the North Island. I think they're down to about 5 or 6 bikes in North Island at this stage. So
you're kidding. Oh.
No, it's sad too, because we, as I say, when Ivan Major, Barry Briggs and Ronnie Moore, we were the best in the world. We won the world teams in the 70s. So yeah.
Yeah, I seen Ivan, I can't remember. I must have been really young. I think it was Riccarton Showgrounds or something. On the trotting track there once.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. And then I met him again when he was retired. He was fairly old. I'd like to say, I'm not sure how old he was when he passed, but he was easily in the 70s anyway. They have a thing called the Easter Bonanza at Broadford. Yeah. And he was there on one of his old bikes and he actually rode it around and he's still going pretty good, really.
I haven't met him, but I remember we saw because he had that Ivan Major troop that came through in the 80s. I remember seeing him at Kiki then. I think Ollie Olsen was out that year. I saw him and him like that. And then, that international series ran right through basically to the early 2000s, but then it sort of died off. So, yeah.
And so, your personal opinion, where would you like to see it go in New Zealand?
I would like us to see us get bigger, so we maybe have five to eight classic type events around the country a year where we're our own event. We're not piggybacking off Speedway. Yeah. There's enough private Speedway tracks and black tracks and maybe Speedway New Zealand tracks we could do that. We get into a critical mass because you need motocross. You need 100 bikes. Flat track maybe get away with 80, with sort of 60, 70 to run run an event because the St. John's cost you so much, the track high and prep cost you so much. So I'd love to get the fact we're always going to be stunted with growth on the speedway tracks because we can't run 5 classes. Which I'd love the fact if in 5 years' time we had 5 meetings year round like the Clay Classic around the country, that would be really, really cool.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of trying to run a New Zealand title straight away. I think we need to build the base first.
Yeah.
And if anything, you put a title in it, and people go nuts when they see a national title and stuff like that. So, I mean, we're already talking about another track in the bottom half of North Island that nearly got looked at a few years ago, and they didn't get the rider numbers to make it happen. But maybe we look at running it out next year down near Palmerston North. And the guys receptive to running bikes there. So, running something similar to that. That would be really, really cool. We go because, we get into numbers wise at the speedway tracks where they don't want us to take over, and I don't want to take over that. We're not. A lot of these clubs have been around since the 60s or even before.
Yeah.
So if we can get to that point where maybe you've got to qualify to run a tri-series on the big tracks, we've got 20 guys that want 15 spots.
Yeah. So there is a tri-series starting, is there?
Tri-series. So the first round is at Waikareika Park, which is in Auckland, which is a stock car track in Auckland rather than the open wheel track.
Yeah.
So for the Aussies out there, if you want to see some unbelievable action, look up Super Stock Teams Racing. I don't know if you've ever seen Super Stock Teams Racing.
No, I haven't.
It's 4-on-4 with 248 cubic inch hot rod motors worth minimum 50 to 80 grand just across the line. Death cars.
Yeah.
So they're full contact. You're basically not allowed to cut the pole line and not allowed to go backwards, and most other stuff's legal.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that's real. So that's the stock car track, and they pull big numbers there. So we run there on the Demolition Derby night. Then we run at Gisborne. Now Gisborne's banned, but we went there in 2020 before COVID. We actually only got 2 races in before we got rained out. But that track it's cool. It's got about an 8 meter drop from the wall to the pole line, so that you get really good speed around there.
Really banked.
Yeah, really banked. So we go there on I think it's the 7th of January, and then we're at Western Springs on the 26th of February. So that's the 3 tri-series. There's going to be 15 guys each one, and
Yeah, okay. Oh, so I thought it was going between the 2 islands.
No. We hope to run a north versus south sort of, and probably go down to Moore Park. So run that hopefully later in the year. But a few of us are trying to get down to the Canterbury Champs on the 10th of December. So we're trying to get down there last year, but that's Moore Park. Yeah.
And they're doing a bit of Ellesmere too, are they?
Yeah, they run an Ellesmere too. So Ellesmere is a black track as well. So it's I think they're CTRA, which is another organisation. New Zealand's a whole lot easier to get insurance because we have ACC and we can't sue each other. And all our medical bills are paid for when we crash. It's really good system if you're a motorcycle racer, to be fair.
Yeah. It's a bit messy over here. Like, we won't go into that. That's a whole other podcast. But
3 podcasts, and we still don't understand it.
Yeah. I don't really understand it myself. So I like to talk facts if I can. But but awesome. Thanks for taking the time out. And I hope the guys over here and you guys there and anyone interested in getting in, can they reach out to you or?
I mean, I'm pretty easy to find on Facebook or Instagram, or look up NZFT, New Zealand Flat Track.
Yeah.
We keep everything updated on there, and all the Moore Park guys post everything on that. When we set up the Clay Classic, the borders were sort of shut and everything like that, so we didn't really try and reach out to the Aussies to come over, but it might be something we'll look at in the future. And same with the Aussie titles and like that, maybe something we can look at with a bit more notice. But now international travel's allowed again. Now we've been let out of our cages again. So
yeah, well, my fingers are really crossed for the AFTN that takes off and the 19s kick off next year. Really, this is a teaser, but at the next weekend. But I'm really hoping that it takes off, and he's done a really good job with the prize package and all that.
I agree. He's done an awesome job. So I hope it kicks off. And as I said when it came on Facebook, give us more notice, and we'll try and get there. Yeah,
it'd be awesome. And are you guys going to be running more of a twins class, or are you just staying focused on the 450 stuff?
We're going to run more of the 450 stuff at the moment. I think all our stuff's quarter mile.
Yeah.
And I think the 450s, yeah. Like at the Clay Classic, we'll run that twin, if they want to run a twin and like that, or that hooligan type thing. But yeah, at this stage, the 450s is so easy.
Yeah.
Like, you can buy a competitive second-hand 450 for $5,000.
Yeah.
Fully injected 450, spend $2,000 on it and rims and suspension.
Yeah.
And you get a bike you can go win on. Where to build a twin is either you got to buy one out of the States, or a couple of guys have built twins pretty basically, but they're pretty evil handling. I think Drakey could punt that. Yeah, I think he bought it for $800. Yeah, 650, and he could punt it pretty quick. I think guys brought it to go run Burt Munro on it.
Oh, okay.
Paid for it. It's sitting in Drakey's shed. Yeah. So
Yeah,
no,
right.
I mean at this stage we're going to concentrate on that 450 class. Yeah, I think that's sort of our starting point because it's so easy to get into it.
So was it Blake was on a 250 though, is he?
Yeah, yeah.
2 strokes.
Blake and Luke both rode 252 strokes. They both had 450s and gone back to 252 strokes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so the 250 seems to run to the middle of the corner better. And talking to road race boys, they said the same to the old 250 GP bikes. They were just so quick to the middle of the corner because no rotating mass. And yeah. And the 450s, especially on the clay tracks, tend to get them at the end of the straights and get on it when there's more traction. But yeah, no, it's cool. And yeah, I know Blake's got the new fuel injected KTM coming, so I'll be interested to see how that goes. But yeah.
And I was going to say, with your steel shoe, the art to that is not overusing it.
No. When we've had a couple of sloppy tracks, it's been really good because I've held the front wheel up on it. And I'd love to go do one of the Texas Tornado courses or something like that and really learn how to lose the front. But I think I want to learn on a 150, not on a 450. So
it's actually it is amazing. Well, as you know, I've got a track at home, and it's amazing. Like I watch a lot of the American stuff or any of the 19-inch flat track stuff, doesn't matter where it is, and they're doing the limbo and that sort of stuff, you know, getting it real low, and you're going, how are they doing that? You try doing that on a 2118, forget it, you know. But these, they're pretty much, you just push down on the left handlebar and down it goes. And they hold on. So.
It sounds easy. It's getting it up. It's the hard part.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But
you think you're going really good, and you see photos. I'm sure the handlebar was close to the ground on that. It's a bad angle. It's just
yeah, but it's a fantastic sensation. It's something when you're spectating, it's just something you don't understand. You can't understand till you've done it, I think.
No, exactly. And no, I mean I'm loving it. This is full season like that, and it's really my boys just started riding. He just started riding his 2-wheeler over the weekend, so. Because he's told me he want to go race at Rosebank. I was like, well, they're not allowed electric bikes at Rosebank yet, so you're going to have to ride your KDX 50s. So,
yeah, right. So you've got a couple kids, have you?
Yeah, so I've got a 4-year-old boy and a 3-year-old girl.
So. Yeah, right. And so 3-year-old girl's kicking his ass on the electric bike?
Nah, she's sensible. She's going to be like me. We're going to spend a bit of time in A&E growing up, I think. So, Hadley took the bike straight away, like 1 year old. He was on a strider before he was 1 and everything like that. He's just had natural balance and rode a 2-wheeler, and he's had a Stasic for a year and he loves that. But yeah, now he's got the KDX 50 and we went out. I know Ben Townley really well, and we went out to his place and rode around the grass. And after 2 minutes of riding, he said he wanted to go on his full-on supercross track. So he's not lacking confidence.
Yeah, no.
And self-preservation techniques, but yeah. So it's quite cool. There's 2 or 3 of us that sort of got kids around that age and look at getting into Rosebank too, because they run on the mini track. They run a 50 class, which is basically peewees.
Yeah.
And then they go into miniature solos and all that. So we might put them into 85 flat track bikes yet.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that the next sort of progression too?
We had a couple of inquiries this year about the Clay Classic, but there's a couple of rules and that we need to make up and like that. And yeah, hardest thing here is getting tyres. No one's got a 16-inch tyre. So
what about the 17-inch Dunlop?
Yeah, we could do, but then people are going to change bikes for 1 metre a year, change rims and everything like that. So until I can offer them 10 metres a year, no one's going to do that. So same with, I'd almost like to do that the same as we did. So I can make it easy to get into. Take your front brake off, put a trials tyre on. You can get a 16-inch trials tyre, but the minimum water quantity is pretty high. So we're talking about it, and
it sounds like
do one. So we may make it, if we do that, it'll be a controlled tyre. So But the Cinco tire is going to be like $70.
Yeah.
So, well, it was going to
that's-
be 2 years ago anyway. So it's probably gone up like
So
everything.
what are you guys running? Maxis, are you?
No, well, Shinkos have been popular because they stocked them.
Yeah.
I personally run Hoosiers, like Indian Hoosiers.
Yeah.
Blake and Toby, those guys are running Dunlops.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
DT4s.
yeah, Midas has had some tires in stock in that as well. I don't know if I've got any at the moment, but yeah. But I import my Hoosiers off the sprint car importer. I just got it's about a 3-month lead time. I buy 2 rears in the front for a season.
Yeah. Right.
Offer them, turn them around, and yeah.
And what's tyre prices like over in Kiwiland?
They were 318 plus GST for the Hoosiers. The Dunlops are a little bit dearer, but the Shinkos have gone up to about $170. They were about 120 2 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So, yeah. And
Yeah, I think
I mean, to be fair, they've won the Clay Classic both times, and Luke Ramsey still runs them and smokes us. So, but yeah, I like the Hoosiers because they look cool. And I'm like that. So yeah, yeah. So the Dunlop seem to be a bit better, and as me and Blake found, they seem to last a bit longer. The Shinkos are really good when they've got a sharp edge, but they go off pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we cycle tires, and I had a Midas that sort of ran all right, and yeah. But no, we're trying to make it fun, and that's why we keep that stock bike class. We just alternate. Yeah. If you got an enduro bike, you put an 18-inch on it, and yeah.
Yeah, no, sounds good. Well, hopefully one day soon I'll get over there. I've still got my old man's got the old 03 450 I used at the Burt in his garage store collecting dust. So I actually, when I saw the Clay Classic, I really wanted to come over, but
we could have got that bike up here, Drake? You would sure have spare room in his van.
Yeah, I just couldn't quite wing it with the Minister of Finance, so to speak.
Oh yeah,
but next year she's going off to the UK to visit her dad for his 90th, so that sort of means I might be able to plan myself a trip. So
well, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to try and get the date out early, so you got some plan and like that. And as I say, if you need help getting that bike up here, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Where there's a will, there's a way, isn't it? That's how all this happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's fantastic. Well, thanks for taking your time out of your evening and chatting to us all. And
mate, and hopefully the Australian Flat Track titles go awesome for you. And hope, as I said to the guys, give us more notice next year. We'll try and get some bikes out there.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Have a good one.
Cheers, mate.
Chat soon. Cheers. So there we go. Great chat with Scott. Some good insight there. Some good goals by the team down there by the looks of it, to get Flat Track being a standalone event at the moment. Sounds like that they, or as Scott was saying, they piggyback off other events, other race meetings, which, goes to show, though, that working together can get it a long way. Like, that's given the guys time to ride, and obviously the promoters of the Speedway events see value in it as well. It gives something different for their spectators to see, and I think that's got the potential to build the sport into something even bigger. And there's no need to rush. Take a bit of time building it up, like Scott was saying, and before you know it, I think his 5-year timeline, it might come even a little bit sooner than that, and they're running some sole flat track events, which will be fantastic, and it would be really good to get over there. I've been wanting to get back for quite a while. Most of my family is still there, apart from my mum, who lives over here, and obviously my wife and kids are here. But all the rest of my extended family are there. I'd love to go for a visit, and if we can slip in some racing, it's always a bonus. So that would be really good to do that. And if I can tee it up that I race in both islands, that'd even be better. Maybe we bring some guys with us. It'd be cool. So hope you enjoyed that one. As always, keep it sideways. Go Flat Tracker.